Hello, friends. I hope you're there, finding your way in here. Hey, good morning, friends. Sorry, my connectivity over here on the end was freezing up, so I couldn't see what's going on here, but I am here. Good morning, John. Glad you're here. Donna, good morning to you. Hello, Yvette. Viva la Mexico this morning. Mexican Independence Day today, everybody. Thank you, thank you. Good morning, Donna. How are you? Sorry, that was my concentration face trying to get my end working. So I'm glad people could see, got to see that. That's a real joy for me. 3 or 4 minutes of me looking like I'm sucking on lemons. That's a good time. Hey, Deb Votrin. Good morning to you. Glad you're here. Audrey, how are you? Hello to everybody. So glad you're here this morning. Good morning, Linda. How are you? Glad you're here. We're a part of this journey. Good morning. Good morning. All right, let's get going. I know you got to stare at me there for a little while I was undoing things on this end. So yeah, so let's do this thing. Good good morning, everybody. It is the 16th day of September. Last half of September, friends, at 11:11, and I am glad that you're here. I'm glad you're a part of this journey, and I'm glad you are here. I want to talk about Habakkuk today, because who doesn't want to talk about Habakkuk? I mean, come on. So Habakkuk is one of what are called the minor prophets. He's this guy who is sandwiched between all of these kind of bigger names, and the book of the minor prophets is only that it goes by his name is only 3 chapters long. So you can actually read the whole thing if you wanted to today. And it ends this. I'm going to read you the end of the story. And the thing about Habakkuk is he's trying to figure out God. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to figure out what's going on. He's trying to figure out why are things coming undone, because in Habakkuk's day they are coming undone. And so he's trying to figure out, why are they coming undone? I don't understand. And not only why are they coming undone, what am I supposed to do in the middle of them coming undone? I don't know. There's this great debate that's going on about, okay, the Babylonians are no more. Do we rebuild the temple? Do we stay with local worship? What do we do? How do we even honor God? We don't have any idea how to do this thing. And so there's this incredible confusion. And so Habakkuk is kind of giving some questions to God about what should we do and how should we do it, and he doesn't really get any answers, mind you. He gets answers, and I'll let you read those if you're interested. But the chapter ends with this. It says this. It says, though the fig tree does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crop fails, the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen and no cattle in the stalls, Yet I will rejoice in the Lord, and I will be joyful in God, my Savior. My sovereign Lord is my strength. He enables my feet like the feet of a deer, and he enables me to tread on the heights. All right, now, this is a bad day, isn't it? In particularly in an agrarian world, that the fig tree does not bud, the grapes have no vines, the olive crop fails. Think about this: that you set your olive crop, you set your fig crop, you set your grape crop probably 5 years before you actually get to harvest these things, and so they go over time. So this notion that what Habakkuk is pointing to is the fact that this isn't just we're having a bad day. This is a bad, not even just a bad season, but this is a failure of epic proportions. That there are no figs, there are no grapes, there are no olives, the fields produce no food. This is pointing to a breakdown on an epic level. And what he says is, he says, "Yet I will rejoice in the Lord, and I will be joyful in God, my Savior." Now, this way of rejoice, this word rejoice, it gets thrown around a lot in the Bible. Of course, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. We hear it a number of times. And this rejoice is great because rejoice is kind of like this yes kind of idea. But it's the thing we don't understand about this word that I think is critical to getting this. Because otherwise, at least for me, and I don't know about you, but when things get hard, everything just turns into a platitude, or just turns into something that just doesn't meet the task. That there's this way in which of understanding when there is no food, when everything is breaking down, when we don't know which way to turn even to find the divine. Do we rebuild the temple? Do we stay at home and worship? We don't even know where God is. We don't even know which end is up. We're thoroughly both demoralized, discouraged, and in the midst of it are disoriented, just not knowing which way to turn. This is what Habakkuk is bringing to God. This is what these 3 chapters are dealing with. This is the core of it. And there's this kind of conversation between him and God that's going on in this. And it ends with that simple phrase, that simple line of, "Yet I will rejoice in the Lord and will be joyful in God my Savior." Rejoicing in the Lord is not this like happy clappy idea, because the root of this word comes from the word victory. It is what it's talking about. When it says "I will rejoice in the Lord," or sometimes it gets translated in the older text of like "I will exult in the Lord." You read that now and you're kind of like, I don't know about you, but for me it's cold comfort. It doesn't really get the thing until you start to dig underneath, until you start to scratch underneath and you say, oh, wait a minute. What this is really talking about is that God is victorious all the time, regardless of circumstance. That on the long arc of history, in the long arc of my life, in the long arc of the world, there is a victory that is already at hand. I mean, because we are in the midst of this creation, we are in the midst of this ordered thing, and we are in the midst of, and that doesn't mean there isn't evil in it, and that doesn't mean there aren't things that won't get us in it. That doesn't mean our bodies won't break down. It doesn't mean we won't get sick. It doesn't mean we won't contend with all the difficulties. It doesn't mean, as that text says, I mean, it's just so rich that the olives trees have failed. There are no figs. You can imagine that agrarian society where there's nothing. There's nothing. And even though I will rejoice in the Lord, so I will hold to the understanding and the recognition that the divine still is in control of this larger thing. That God is victorious in this world. And so I will hold onto the foundation of victory that is that is written into all things. And you have to go pretty basic sometimes to get that. For particularly if you're feeling discouraged, sometimes you have to look at the lawn and say, well, there's grass growing on the lawn, that something is pushing life into this world that is beyond me. For some reason there is life that's happening here, and it's beyond, and I didn't create it, and that there's consciousness, there's beauty, even though we might not even be able to appreciate it because our heart is so hard or it's so filled with pain, whatever it is, that even though, but we can still cognitively know that, and we can plug into somehow and some way, plug into this victorious idea, this victorious nature of God, that God's victorious in this. And so when it says rejoice, to us, that sounds like this, like we're going to have, like, every day's a birthday party kind of thing. Like, yay! And it's not talking about an experience. It's not talking about a feeling state. It's talking about this underlying reality that I will hold fast and exult in. I will lift up. When we talk about it, I will lift up. I'm going to lift up in my life the things and the moments and the places in which the order of God, the Logos, the reality, have in fact shown themselves, and that they are real. Even if I can't see them in this instant, in this moment, even if in the midst of it all, the fig trees do not have buds, the grapes have no vines, the olive crop has failed, there are no sheep in the pen, and there are no cattle in the stalls. Even though I might feel like I am starving in the midst of this, and maybe I'm starving in grief, maybe I'm starving in despair, maybe I'm starving in struggle. Chesterton, who is, I think, one of the great modern Christian minds, who understood, he talks about this as hope. Like, he talks about this as hope, because when we talk about the exaltation, when we talk about holding on to victory, the victory of God that is beyond the simple idea of, like, yay, every day is unicorns and rainbows and ice cream, that we just need to deny the fact that we're in a painful world with painful things, but to hold on to this underlying knowledge and this underlying reality that is about hope. And this is what Chesterton is driving at. Is he says, hope means hoping when things are hopeless, or it is no virtue at all. I want to repeat that again. Hope means hoping when things are hopeless, or it is no virtue at all. Consider this. Exulting in the Lord, which is really this holding on to victory, the victory of God in all things, the victory of God in life. And that doesn't mean things are going to come out all the way that we want them to come out. That doesn't mean that we're always going to be victorious on the field. No, quite often we won't be. Quite often we will be ground to dust. Quite often. And in fact, it's the exception that we will actually get those moments of rejoicing. Which brings me to the title of what we're talking about today, Billy White Shoes Johnson, who I love. Billy White Shoes Johnson was one of the first NFL players who ever celebrated. He joined the NFL in 1974, and by the time he had joined the NFL, he had already gotten his nickname as White Shoes Johnson, because when he was a high school footballer, he dyed his cleats white. Everybody, there's actually this report where they said, he had spilled paint on him, and because he was poor, he couldn't get new cleats. He says, don't listen to any of that. He says, I dyed them white because I wanted them to see the how fast my feet would move, because I wanted them to see how fast he was. Now, Billy White Shoes Johnson was 5'9". He was not a big guy for the NFL, and although he was quick, he always struggled because he's a little guy, and as little guys will, and so he joined the team of the Houston Oilers as a return kicker, and so he was a punt returner, And he in 1974 was one of the first guys ever to run back he caught the punt and he ran it back for a touchdown. And when he ran it back for a touchdown, what did he do? He rejoiced. He did what was known in the 1970s, and if you're old enough, you know what this is. He did the funky chicken in the end zone. And in his funky chicken dance, he rejoiced in having that moment where he was victorious in the end zone. This little guy, he would go on later. He would keep playing, and in fact, he's actually one of the reasons there became no celebrating in the end zone rules in the NFL was Billy White Shoes Johnson, because every time he made a touchdown, he would celebrate. But the thing is his faith was actually much deeper and different than that. He celebrated when he made a touchdown, but when he talks about it, but he in 2010 he preached at a church in Texas, and he said, the thing about your faith is it is a foundation, and if you don't have a foundation, you can't build up a foundation when you're in trouble. White Shoes Johnson rejoiced in the end zone when he made the few touchdowns that he made, when he made when the days were good, he was able to rejoice. But he was also able to persevere through seasons of injuries. Not just one season, but multiple seasons of injuries, of playing hurt, of not playing at all. He's the only guy that actually played on the not the all-star game, but the all NFL game. So players from all ages and he played in the all NFL game and was the only player ever to play in those games that was not in the Pro Hall of Fame, because he never scored enough. He never got enough. He was never really big enough to be able to. But I think we can take a lesson from him. We can take a lesson from him in leaning on what Chesterton has to tell us about hope. That hope means hoping when things are hopeless, or it is no virtue at all. There will be moments in our lives of celebrating. There will be moments where we get to do the funky chicken. But being prepared to do the funky chicken, but having the funky chicken already on board in our life, having the notion that we are anchored and we are grounded in the foundation of the victory of God in this world, that Habakkuk points to, that in all of his confusion, in all of his brokenness, in all of the not knowing which way to go, not even knowing where God is, or God is at work in his life, or in the life of Israel, what does he do? He exalts. He rejoices. He holds to the victory of God, even though nothing is going right. Friends, I don't know how things are going in your life right now. Some of them you do, some of you don't. Some I know you're carrying grief. Some I know you're carrying hurt. Some I know you're worrying. Some I know you're. I don't know what's happening with you. But what I invite you to is to get your funky chicken out, to get your knowledge of victory, your foundation of love and grace, and hone that. Like we all have to dig our own well in this. Like, I can't tell you what that is for you or how that lives out for you. But what I can tell you is that it is there. What I can tell you is that there is, underneath the good times and the bad times, the prophet Rumi says, there is a field beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing. I will meet you there. This notion of there's good things in our lives, there's bad things in our lives, there's struggles, there's heartbreak, there's betrayal, there's all the things in our life, and yet beyond them and contained within them, or containing them rather, are the very fabric and nature of God and God's creation itself. And it's that foundation. It's that foundation that we are called ever and always to hearken to, no matter how good, nor no matter how bad things are going. White Shoes Johnson could do the funky chicken because he had a foundation. He had a foundation that was beyond the ideas of things going well or things going poorly. Because he had a lot of hard days and just a few great days. But his foundation allowed the great days of his life to truly be and rejoice in it. You know, they got mad at him once, and they said, you know, you're just being an entertainer, you're just being a show off. And he said, I don't think I was. He said, I don't think I was being a show off. I don't think that wasn't really what I was doing. He says, I think I was having fun. Friends, if we want to know joy in this world, if we want to really exalt in the Lord in the good days, that the foundation must be built. If we want to endure the bad days, if we want to have, as Chesterton says, hope that means something, versus a hope that means hoping when things are hopeless or it is no virtue at all. That hoping upon hope, even when, again, there are no figs, there are no sheep in the pen, there are no cattle in the stalls, when we don't have anything, when things are stripped down in our lives, the arrival at the foundation of the victory of God. The arrival at the, and that doesn't mean that we have this warm fuzzy feeling in our heart where everything's going to be okay no matter what's going on. That is not what's going on. That's not the state Habakkuk is in, nor is it the state we're called to be in all the time. But it is this knowing and this relying and this enduring and this building our house, the building our life on this foundation of God's victory over all of the gnarly stuff in the world. It may come the way we want it to. It may not come in our lifetime. But come it will. And that our anchoring in that knowledge, our foundational selves, will allow us on the very best of our days to dye our shoes white and to dance the funky chicken in the end zones of our life, whatever they look like and whenever they may come. Because there is a promise that one day they will, in fact, arrive. All right, friends, that's my hope for you today. I hope I want to remind you tomorrow at 11 o'clock, I'll be at Government Center offering the benediction for the POW MIA memorial that will be going on at Government Center at 11 o'clock tomorrow. So if you are out and about, I would ask you that you might come and honor those warriors who went from this nation, sent by their government, sent by this people, and still are not joined among the ranks, who have not returned among the faithful. And so that's our hope. So we will hold them up tomorrow at 11. And then on Sunday, we have our Scholarship Sunday, which is always exciting and always a good time. Hey, who doesn't like to give away money? Like, it's always awesome that we get a chance to hold up some of our young scholars, and we get to hear some of their story and to pray and celebrate with them as they go forward in their collegiate journey. So I hope you'll be a part of that as well, as we can give blessing to those in our community. All right, friends, that's our journey for today, and we will pick it up next week on Tuesday with another 11:11. Peace and grace, friends.